demonstration, I will go over how we can configure Active Directory to store BitLocker recovery keys on your server. To do this, we need a specific feature added to your Windows server. Open your server manager, then go to the Manage menu and open the Add Roles and Features option. On here, click Next, and I will keep it in the role-based or feature-based installation, and click Next, click Next, and click Next. And under the Features section, we're going to select the BitLocker Drive Encryption. When you select this option, it will give you a pop-up to add additional features. And make sure that you add these features, because what we are really interested in here right now is the BitLocker Recovery Password Weaver, which will allow us to weave all the BitLocker recovery passwords using our Active Directory for all the devices that are domain joined to this server. So we're going to say Add Features and make sure that Include Management Tools, if applicable, is also checked off. And we're going to click Next. And I will select Restart the destination server automatically if required. And just to let you know that when you install this particular feature, you will need to restart your server. So keep that in mind. When you are adding this particular feature, you will have to restart your server, and your server will be offline for a few minutes or couple of minutes, depending on how powerful your server is. So we're going to select that, restart the destination server automatically if required, and I'm going to click Install. And once it is done, we will restart this server and then come back to the rest of this demonstration. So once the restart is done, you need to log in, and it will continue the installation process. And once it's done, it will give you a message saying the installation process has been completed. I'm just going to change the display settings so it's easy for you guys to see. And now that particular feature has been added, you see up here with that flag that the installation is successful. If you get any error messages, you may have to go back and try to reinstall and look for those error messages and fix them. So as long as you have a message saying the installation is successful, we are good to go. Now, if I open the tools and open the Active Directory users and computers, and on this console, you need to navigate to your location where your devices are located. Like for example, for me, it will be under the NetIT Geeks OU under Client Computers section. And if I open one of these computer options, now we have this tab called BitLocker Recovery. So currently nothing in there because no BitLocker configuration is done yet. But you do have this tab now. If you don't see this tab, the reason for that is because you have not added that feature that we added from the Manage Add Roles feature. So if you don't have this particular tab on your devices, on your Windows devices, the BitLocker Recovery tab, what you need to do is to make sure that you go back in here and check under the Features section that the BitLocker encryption is showing as installed, because if you don't have this option installed, you will not see that particular option showing up. Another thing I want to point out, on older Windows servers, when you try to install this type of BitLocker encryption option, this feature, it will not give you that pop-up for adding those additional features. Instead, it will give you a drop-down menu similar to like this one, and you need to make sure that you select the BitLocker Recovery Password Weaver on the older Windows Server operating systems. This is Windows Server 2022, so it automatically gave me the pop-up. So make sure that the BitLocker Recovery Password Weaver is selected on all the Windows servers when you are installing the BitLocker Drive Encryption modules. So keep that in mind. For this one, when I click the BitLocker Drive Encryption, it automatically gave me add features, but in all the Windows Server operating systems, you need to make sure that you select from this type of a drop-down menu that you have the BitLocker Recovery Password Weaver. So that's what get us that option tab right here showing that BitLocker recovery information. So now we know that this option is here and it is properly installed. Next step is to go back to our server manager, go to the tools menu, and we will open the group policy management console. This is where we're going to implement the group policies. Under my organizational unit NetIT Geeks, I have the organizational unit called Client Computers. And this is where I'm going to create the GPO and link it here. The reason for that is, if I minimize this one, you can see that under my Active Directory users and computers, all my Windows computers are located under the organizational unit Client Computers. So it is logical for me to apply this policy at the client computers organizational unit level. So that's why I'm doing that. So I'm going to go back in here. You need to choose whatever the organizational unit that is more makes sense to you and logical sense to you. So for me, it's going to be client computers because that's where all my computers are located. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to select create a GPO in this domain and link it here. And I'm going to name this BitLocker GPO and click OK. Next step is to edit the new GPO that we created here. So I will right click that GPO and click edit, and that will open up the group policy management editor. And I'm going to expand this a little bit this way, and under the computer configuration section, we're going to expand the policies. Then we're going to expand the administrative templates. Under administrative templates, we will expand the Windows components, and in here we will go and find the options for BitLocker. So right here we have BitLocker Drive Encryption. So I'm going to select that first, and then I'm going to open the store BitLocker recovery information in Active Directory domain services. So I'm going to double click on that. It is not currently configured, so I'm going to enable it. So this will enforce a policy that will allow us to store all the BitLocker recovery information within this server Active Directory. So I'm going to make sure that require BitLocker backup to ADDS. If you go down here, and there are some options that you can change, for example, recovery password and key packages, or you can just put the recovery password only. So I'm going to put it as the default option, which is the recovery password and key packages, so that I will have all the information from my clients stored in this server. So now it is enabled and this thing is checked off, require BitLocker backup to ADDS. I'm going to click apply and click OK. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to expand the BitLocker Drive Encryption here, and then I will select the option called Operating System Drives. And in here, I'm going to open the option called the Require Additional Authentication at Startup. And this step is not necessary for any of you who are performing this on a production server that is not on a virtual environment. I'm doing this because I have virtual machines. For example, my Windows 11 machine is a virtual machine, and also my Windows Server 2022 is on a virtual machine. So I'm going to open this option called the Require Additional Authentication at Startup under the BitLocker Drive Encryption operating system drive section, and I'm going to enable it. And in here, I'm going to make sure that allow BitLocker without a compatible TPM is selected. The only reason I'm doing this because my machines are virtual machines and I don't have access to a TPM on those machines. If you don't have trusted platform modules on all of your drives, all of your devices on your network, you can also configure this on your group policy, and this will allow your clients to still use BitLocker encryption without having to use a trusted platform module. So I'm just going to make sure that allow BitLocker without a compatible TPM is selected and it is enabled, and I'm going to apply it and click OK. The next setting that I will change is the one called the Enforce Drive Encryption type on operating system drives. So I'm going to select that one. I'm going to enable it. What this policy allows you to do is to configure the encryption type used by BitLocker Drive Encryption. So right now it says allow user to choose, that's the default. But you can do full drive encryption, or you can do use space only encryption. So you have a couple of choices here. It is up to you based on your organizational policies which option that you pick. For me, I'm going to select the one called the full drive encryption. So what that's going to do is when the BitLocker encryption is enabled and the group policy is active, it's going to do a full drive encryption on our devices. So this way everything is protected. This is enabled now, and I'm going to apply it and click OK. Next setting that we need to change is the option called the choose how BitLocker protected operating system drive can be recovered. So we're going to double click on that, and currently it is not configured, and we're going to change that to enable. We will make sure that allow data recovery agent is checked off, and I'm going to leave all the default options as it is, except I'm going to change do not enable BitLocker until recovery information is stored to ADDS for operating system drives. This will make sure that we get the BitLocker recovery keys and saved onto our Active Directory before the encryption start happening. I'm going to click apply and OK. So now we have done the setup for our group policy. We can close this window and we can make sure that it is applied to the correct location. So it is under the client computers organizational unit and it is applied right here. And I can close the group policy management console. And next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to my client called Windows 11 Enterprise, and I'm going to log in with my administrator account. You can use actually any account as long as it is domain joined, but I'm going to use the administrator account. So now I'm logged in. I'm going to go to the start menu, type CMD for command prompt, and then I'm going to type our famous command that I have been using for a while, that is called gpupdate/force. So what that is doing is basically it is forcing a group policy that has been changed. Once the group policy update has been done, we're going to close the command prompt. I will open the start menu and type BitLocker. You can just type bit and it will show up the manager BitLocker options. And in the BitLocker Drive Encryption section, we're gonna select the turn on BitLocker. You need to have administrative privileges to open this. So if you are not logged in as the domain administrator, it will give you a pop-up window to enter the domain administrator username and password. So once you are here, you have the option to select either insert a USB flash drive or to enter a password. So I'm going to select the option called enter a password. Then I will give you a password. I will give the system a password. Click next. And in here you can save the recovery key either to a USB drive or to a file, or you can print the recovery key. So you have a couple of options. I'm going to select the option called save to a file, but keep in mind, if you select this option, you cannot save the BitLocker Drive Encryption recovery information to the same drive in which you are encrypting. So if you have the C drive currently being encrypted, that's the case, you won't be able to save it to the C drive. So when I select the save to a file, if I try to save it, for example, documents in here, it will give you the option, error message saying, hey, you can't save the key to the same drive that you are encrypting. So we need to find a different location. So in my case, I'm going to put it into one of my network folders, sh_manager. And I'm going to save it here. So again, when you're saving the BitLocker encryption file, it has to be saved outside the C drive which you are encrypting. Otherwise, it won't let you save. And I'm going to click next. And in here, you can select the type of encryption that you will be using. So you can use new encryption mode, which is best for fixed drives on this device, or you can use the compatible mode where whatever the mode that you select, you can read up on that, on which one you should be selecting based on your organizational policies. And I'm just going to leave it in default, and I'm going to click next. And I'm going to check off the run BitLocker system check just for good measures, and I'm going to click continue. And that will give you a pop-up to restart your Windows client. Now, if you don't go through the restart, your BitLocker encryption won't start. So make sure that you restart, and that will allow you to make sure that the BitLocker encryption is done properly. So right now there are maybe some CDs in here that's currently in here. So I'm going to eject that. So that's why it won't let me restart. And I can say restart now. And as you can see, as soon as it's restart, it asks for my BitLocker password. So I'm going to enter my BitLocker password I have. And it will get me into my Windows 11 machine. Now, if I go back to our Windows Server 2022 machine, and in here, if we go to our Active Directory users and computers, and we open our Windows 11 machine we just encrypted, for me it is Win11 ENT x64 WS3. So if I double click that, it will open up the properties. And if I go into the BitLocker Recovery tab, now I can see the BitLocker recovery password showing up here. You may encounter a problem where you don't see the BitLocker recovery password on this particular tab. So you might have a situation similar to something like this, where it will say no new no items to view, and with a message saying if you want to search, go ahead and search it on the root of your domain. So this is a small problem with some of the Windows machines. It's a very easy fix with a script. So if you go to your encrypted client and go to the BitLocker Recovery tab, and there's nothing showing up here like this password showing up for me, what you need to do is to go back to your device, the client, in this case my Windows 11 machine, right click on the start menu and click terminal, and make sure you are logged in as the domain administrator. And in here you need to type this particular command, BLV BLV equal Get-BitLockerVolume MountPoint C, and click enter. And then the next command you need to enter is the not this one. You need to enter this command, which is the Backup-BitLockerProtector -MountPoint C, and then this particular string of characters, and press enter. What that will do, it will force that BitLocker key to be saved on your Active Directory domain controller. So again, if you go to your ADDS, you open your device from the ADDS, and then you go to BitLocker recovery key, and it's not showing up here, so you don't see the recovery key here. Instead, you get a message like this, where this device is not encrypted right now. You have nothing showing up on the BitLocker recovery passwords. What you need to do is to go back to your device that is encrypted, logging as the administrator, and run these two commands, this one and this one. So that is something that you should do before doing any other troubleshoots, and that should get you that recovery key loaded onto your ADDS. You can automate this process again to show up here if it's not showing up for your devices by putting this into a script, and I will show that on a different video. Also, one more thing I'm going to show you is how to check your BitLocker Drive Encryption. If you want to check BitLocker Drive Encryption, you can enter Get-BitLockerVolume MountPoint C, and I'm going to press enter. What that's going to show you is current status of your BitLocker encryption. For right now, it's saying it is fully encrypted and it is good to go. During the encryption process, especially if you have a large hard drive, right after you enter the encryption, this may say 60%, 70%, 80%, etc., etc. But you can check that by entering this command, Get-BitLockerVolume -MountPoint C. So that's everything for today. If you have any questions or concerns regarding any of the topics that I have covered today, please reach out to me. If you like these type of videos, thumbs up this video and subscribe to my channel. Until next time, have a nice day.